I have officially started work on my first, I guess technically second now, AI startup. So this is WhipsAI. I have kind of always been interested in the car scene. I haven't had the money to really get involved with it because, boy, is that an expensive hobby. But I've always enjoyed watching people build cars, watching people drift cars, watching people just kind of be around cars. I really think that the scene is cool. It's a really cool aesthetic, and it's just kind of something that's always interested me. If you've been living under a rock, you may not know that generative AI, or kind of like AI that focuses on imagery and generating new things, is kind of a big deal right now. This doesn't as much include things like LLMs, like ChatGPT and things like that. We're more talking like imagery. So generating pictures, generating videos, different things like that. AI has gotten shockingly good at generating photorealistic pictures and generating stylized pictures. Obviously, I'll show you some here in a second. But I kind of started playing around with this when I started talking with Peter Levels. If you don't know Peter Levels, who is more commonly, I guess, known as Levels.io on Twitter, he was just on Lex Friedman's podcast talking about Photo AI, which is his generative AI startup that generates photorealistic pictures of people that you can train on your face, train on different places that you want to kind of like appear in. So I could take, a ton of pictures of me, train or fine tune a generative AI model, and it will show me pictures of me in Paris or pictures of me in Tokyo or pictures of me in these different exotic locations. It's a really cool idea. He obviously is making tons of money off of it. That's obviously one of the reasons why, it's kind of taken off, is there's a ton of money in it. But I also think it's a really cool application in different niches. So photo AI is kind of more general. You can also do things like, appearing with your pets, different things like that. But when I started talking to Peter on Twitter, I said, hey, what do you think about doing this for cars? What do you think about like being able to train a model on pictures of yourself and pictures of either your car or your favorite car, and generate pictures of you racing that car, generate pictures of you drifting in that car, generate just pictures of you with that car in different locations? So I started playing around with this. That's when I kind of really became interested in it, when I first started fine tuning some of these models. I'll show you pictures of the landing page. That's whips.ai is the landing page that I've created for it. These are some of the better images that I generated, kind of general, people in front of cars. I actually trained it on newer models of the car that I have. I've got an Audi A5, which is like a used beat up version of the Audi that you see in these pictures. But you can generate pictures of the car drifting in Tokyo, for example, with police chasing it. You can also generate some really funny pictures. I've kind of been messing around with fine tuning the model in different people's pictures, and I'll show you pictures of that here in a second. So Whips.ai is in pre-launch right now. You can sign up for it and get access to kind of like an early release deal. It's, I think, $10 for like 2 months of generating pictures. So you can kind of view the site and kind of, get a feel for what the deal is there. But the really big thing is just signing up with your email so that, I can notify you whenever things are updated. I'm actively developing this. I actually just finished authentication about an hour ago. So that is in the works, and I'm going to start fine tuning the models and training stuff. And that's going to be a big thing on my channel going forward, is building out web scrapers, training models, different things like that. So let's kind of talk about the different things that you can do. Obviously, these are incredible photos. Like these are really highly realistic photos. This picture looks a little bit less like the car that I actually have, but this top one is like spot on. So let's take a look at some of the funnier ones. So I kind of got the idea to start generating images of Lil Yachty in front of a Mustang, and didn't work very well. As you can see, you've got fat Lil Yachty for some reason. I don't really know why it decided that Lil Yachty needed to be fat. But here's a great picture of a Mustang with some smoke coming out of the back of it, and for some reason a fat Lil Yachty behind it. We've got a slightly better one that kind of flubbed up his hand, and it really doesn't do scale very well. So for some reason the scale kind of seems off. The model also doesn't really understand that when a car is drifting, the tires are spinning. So this is just a static tire that has smoke coming off of it. So obviously that needs to be trained. We've got some other funny ones, Lil Yachty kind of warping through the car here, and there's no driver. It kind of managed to get the smoke a little bit better on this one. Let's see. These are all on my Twitter, by the way. I'm going to be posting some of the funnier trainings on Twitter. This one, the arm is just warping through the door, and again, the scale is completely off. He looks like tiny in this. There's actually one where he's really small. Might be able to find it later. But then you've got the really, really good versions of it. I feel like if you train it just on the car, it looks really good. So this is just trained on the car and put in like a Tokyo street, essentially. So there's a lot of potential here. On this one, I tried to train it to have police cars in the background, and it kind of got this right, but it also put the light bar on top of an Audi looking car. It kind of like morphed a BMW into an Audi and kind of created this like bastard child. It looks great, but it doesn't look like an Audi. And obviously the light bar on top of it kind of, screws it up. But again, some really awesome like photorealistic pictures here. Now, here's kind of the process that you're going to have to, or I'm going to have to go through with this. So you've got your kind of base models. So this is like your base model. I'm using Flux. That is the Flux LoRa model. And what you basically do is you fine tune these into kind of mini models. So I'm going to take this base model and I'm going to fine tune it on a car. So this is a fine tunes model. So this fine tunes model is going to be fine tuned on a ton of pictures of just general cars. Okay. And what I want to be able to do is for the user to then be able to tune it on pictures of their car, and their face, or their kind of person. So the individual user should be able to input pictures of their car, so the car that they drive or like their favorite car, as well as pictures of them, so that the output here is going to be photorealistic picture of them with their car in a location. So then we're also going to have plus location. So the challenge here is we've got 3 different subjects. And what I've noticed, and what a lot of other people have noticed, is that these models are really, really, really good at training on one subject. And that's kind of the purpose of them. Whenever you train these models, like on Replicate, which is what I'm using, I'm not affiliated with them. They are an awesome service though. I'm fine tuning them on the car. And if I fine tune them on the car and just output pictures of the car, it looks fantastic. If we go back here and look at these Mustang pictures, if you ignore how scuffed Lil Yachty looks, the Mustang looks great. Like this looks like a Mustang. This Mustang looks fantastic. These are photorealistic, really, really gorgeous pictures of the cars. It even manages to get the reflections pretty well. Like that's a realistic looking, like warped reflection off of the car itself. It gets the logo down. And this was only trained on like a dozen pictures of a Mustang. So it really kind of nailed the aesthetic perfectly. And I also said that I wanted it to be in Paris. Obviously, it put the Eiffel Tower a little bit close to a lot of the buildings in the background. But again, it's really nailing a lot of these, hyper-focused trainings. What it doesn't do super well at, and what I'm really going to need to work on, is when you try to train it on multiple different things at once. So when you try to train it on a specific car, a specific person, and a specific location, whenever you add all of these different variables into it, things start to get a little hairy. So that's going to be the part that I really have to focus on. I know it's doable because Peter does it and because a lot of other people have done it. And there are, entire communities of people who are devoted to figuring out how to train these things properly on multiple different subjects. But the prompt engineering, as well as the training, as well as everything else, it's a science and it takes a lot of work and unfortunately a fair bit of money. So that's kind of where my focus has been. In the future, there are a couple of different things that I need to build out. So the biggest thing is training sets. So I need training sets of cars, people, locations, and combinations. So one of the things that I am thinking, and I'm not 100% sure about this, I haven't tested this theory quite yet, and that's what a lot of these videos are going to be about, is kind of testing theories. One of the things that I'm thinking is that the reason why the scale is off here, So the reason why Lil Yachty kind of looks like weird scale-wise here, and the reason why he looks really weird scale-wise here, like he looks tiny inside that car, I think the reasoning here is that it wasn't trained on enough photos of people next to cars. So it doesn't have enough experience to understand what the size of a human compared to the size of a car should be. That's why it kind of looks a little funky. Obviously the hair looks a little bit weird here as well. And one of the things that also didn't do too well is you'll notice it kind of mangled the eyes. I think that's because a lot of the training photos that I inputted with Lil Yachty's face, the beads in his hair were covering his eyes, so it didn't have enough experience to understand what his eyes looked like, so it kind of mangled it. Same thing with his teeth. It also doesn't, generative AI, if you've looked at it at all, doesn't handle hands super well. It's gotten better, and you kind of have to, fine tune it on hands specifically in order to get it really, really good. But all of these different things really, like, you're going to have to build up a training set for it. So these training sets are going to be laborious to build. I'm also going to have to fine tune the items within the training. So tune the training items. So this is doing stuff like captioning. So one of the things that you input into the training is you have to caption all of the photos using the file names. So the file names will contain the keyword, which is usually a non-English word that indicates like, hey, this is the thing that I really want to focus on. So for example, if I give it the keyword YCHTY, I think is what I used with Yachty, that is basically a word that says the core thing within this image is the thing that I'm trying to train you on. The problem is when you're trying to train it on multiple different things, you can either fine tune it every single time, which is going to be costly and incredibly time intensive. You don't really want to do that. Or you can try to figure out ways to word the captions or word the file names to indicate that you have multiple items that you're focused on here. So my primary model is going to be the individual. So the individual within the photo is going to be the primary focus because you really want to get that right. But I'm also going to have to focus the captions around the car. So how am I going to train the model in order to focus it on the person first, but very slight second the car, and then very slight third the location? So the captioning is really important. The focus of the images. So if I've got an individual photo of a car, if it's just the car, that's fine because it's going to be able to extract the item from that picture very, very well. There were a couple of input images that I had with that Mustang that I think helped a lot. That was literally a PNG with a transparent background that just had the car in it. So that was a really good training image. I think cars are going to be fairly easy because there are so many photos of cars. Like, people are obsessed with cars. It's one of the reasons why I'm building this out. So that's going to be difficult. We're also going to have to focus it on human faces, obviously. We're going to have to focus it on like individual human faces that are in kind of non-ideal circumstances. So not great lighting, hair in front of the eyes. Obviously you saw with Lil Yachty, that was a problem. We're going to have to figure out ways to kind of fine tune it with a fairly small image set because you don't want people to have to upload 400 pictures of themselves in order to train the model. You want it to be able to work fairly well on fairly few images. You're also going to need like full body images of people because if you just give your face, it's just going to make assumptions about the rest of the body that may or may not be correct. Like you saw with Fat Lil Yachty. That's still one of my favorite ones. Like Fat Lil Yachty is hysterical. So that's going to be difficult. And I'm actually looking at, so we're going to be building out web scrapers to pull down images as well as image trainers. So image trainers are going to be things that will pull out features from the photo. So if I input an image of a car, I don't want it to just generically say car. I want it to say black car side profile, for example, or black car with smoke. So extracting these different features from it is going to allow me to do the captioning a lot better because the captioning is a very, very large and important part of this. The captioning is one of like the primary inputs into training your model. So it's going to be incredibly important. So basically what I'm saying here is the more I kind of look at this project, the more I see tons of miniature projects that are kind of within it, that are going to be a lot of fun, that are going to be very interesting to kind of have to deal with basically. And I think that there are a lot of like opportunities to kind of learn from this as well. So what does that look like for the project going forward? The first thing I'm going to do is get the basic authentication working, allow people to be able to sign up, allow people to be able to upload pictures of themselves and train basic models. I'm going to start it at a very, very low price point so that people are a little bit more okay with getting crappier results. I think people are going to be able to get good-ish results pretty quickly, and essentially what they're going to be able to do is fine-tune their model and then use various submodels that will allow them to put themselves in a car drifting in Tokyo or a car in a picturesque location in Paris. And that's going to be kind of like the MVP version 1, basically. That's kind of what Peter started with Photo AI, was he had a workable version that gives people something that's okay, and then he used that to market and then train his models further and figure out all of the prompt engineering and different things like that. So prompt engineering is obviously another big one. And if you're not familiar with what prompt engineering is, you fine-tune your model and you upload all of the pictures and fine-tune the model, and then you prompt the model. So you fine-tune the model with images of yourself, with images of your car, and then you say, I want images of me in the car drifting in Tokyo. I want images of me in front of the car in Belgium. I want pictures of me sitting on top of the car in Abu Dhabi. So those are the prompts that you give it. But if you have a front end where you're allowing people to input prompts, you kind of want to be able to massage those prompts in several different ways. So that's kind of like prompt injection. You take the prompts that people give and then you add things to it. So say if they just give a very generic prompt, like something like photo of me standing in front of car in Paris, then you want to insert things like photorealistic, vibrant colors, sunlight beaming down, different things like that to kind of make the prompt a little bit better. So that's obviously incredibly important in order to get really quality pictures that people will want to share. The marketing side of this is going to be interesting. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to sign up for TikTok, which kind of sucks. I have stayed away from TikTok for the majority of my life, but that's kind of where a lot of the car fanatic community is. So if I want to meet people where they're at, which is kind of like the primary way that you market anything like this, I'm going to have to get on TikTok, I'm going to have to get on Instagram, different things like that, and kind of market it through there. So that's going to be an interesting experience for me. I'm going to have to kind of figure out the marketing side of it. But if I've got a good enough product and the images that are being spit out by this process are good, then ideally it should be fairly easy to market, because it's like, hey, you can put yourself in front of a Lamborghini in Paris, which are two different things that the majority of people will never get the actual opportunity to do. The photos that you're going to get from that are going to be unreal. So you'll be seeing more of Whips on this channel. I know a lot of people are here for malware stuff. That's still going to be here, but this channel is more meant for me to talk about different things that I'm interested in and different projects that I'm working on. And unfortunately, that means that some people are going to be turned off by some of the content I put out. That's just part of it. I'm not here to be a YouTuber. I'm here to build stuff, and YouTube is just kind of like the thing that I do on the side. That said, I do hope you stick around, because kind of the stuff that I'm looking at learning here is going to be really cool. That's about it. Take it easy. Peace.